Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Kate Richburg live from beadshop.com. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's Free Tip Friday, and I'm super excited to share some really great tips I've got to share with you today. It's going to be great. So I'm in front of the camera, and Grace is behind the camera. Oops, and something's in the microwave. It's live, of course. So I'm gonna be behind the camera in just a little bit because Grace is going to get back to working on some cool stuff we've got coming up. So I'm going to be manning the camera in just a few. But Gracie, before you start, I am going to need my computer because I have a question from somebody.
Sure.
So Grace is going to get that for me, and we'll jump right in. So today, you guys, we are working with this tool, one of my favorites. It's the bead reamer, and I'm going to show you how to use that. It's going to go really well with pearls and just a lot of great other beads. You're really going to find it super indispensable. Thank you, Gracie. I just want to read the question that I've got. You guys are so good on your questions and getting them in so timely. Our customer happiness team, which is a team of, well, we're all on the customer happiness team, but Drea, our Drea heads that up. And she sent me a question from Lindy, all the way from Australia. So hello, Lindy, down under in Australia from the San Francisco Bay Area. What she said was, hi, as I'm in Australia, I can't watch your videos live. Is it possible for me to pre-ask a question? And the answer is, of course. You could always ask pre-ask a question. And she'll get the answer when she watches it a little bit later. Her question is, she's using crystal beads and she's had trouble threading on silk, which looks like this, and also elastic, and they've cut through both. Does this mean that she can only use crystal and Swarovski crystal on wire? And she says, thanks in advance, Lindy from Sydney, Australia. Well, I'm going to address that as well. Drea had let me know that you were doing some laddering and stuff, but Lindy, that you've also ordered some of our tough cord. So I'm gonna address that in all of this kind of bead reamer, thread cutter, all of these great things really shortly. So thanks so much for your question. And if you guys have questions that you might want to be addressed in Free Tip Friday or on Janice and I, our regular broadcast on Wednesdays, you can just email those right to me at kate@beadshop.com. All right, well, let's get started. Have we got anybody there, Gracie? Anybody
we have two hellos this morning, but we have a few people
Awesome.
watching. Geeta, of course, and Darla.
Great. Good morning, you guys. Well, I'm going to scoot around and let's get this show on the road. Thanks, Gracie, for starting me out. And I think we've got it. Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see everybody here. I'm going to position the camera, so bear with me here as I do that. It's a beautiful sunny day outside of our window here in Redwood City, California. We're expecting some really good weather this weekend, which is great. I don't know about you guys, wherever you're watching. If you're watching in the northern hemisphere, it's our springtime, so we are really glad to have some good weather. Hello, Sue. It's great to have you guys. Great. Well, let me show you guys what I've got here. And again, since I am manning, that's good to know, Geeta. Since I am running the camera, if I miss a question or whatever, I'll try and get back to it. And also I go through the broadcasts a little bit later and answer questions if they've come up a little bit later after the broadcast. So don't worry if you don't get your question answered. Sorry about that. My camera's a little rickety. If you don't get your question answered, I'll try and come back through. Oh, Sue. Hi, Sue. It's not sunny or dry. Are you getting some spring showers over there? We've gotten so much rain here in California. It's been kind of crazy, but I think maybe we're past it, which is nice. Do you guys want to see? I don't even know if I can show you outside the window. I'm going to turn and show you what's right to my right, but you can see a beautiful blue day right outside our windows here, which is really nice. Thank goodness. Oh, good morning, Drea. Or, well, good afternoon for you, but good morning over here. Alrighty. So let me show you what I've got going on here. This is a tool. I'm going to scoot this over. This is the tool that I want to share with you guys today. This is the bead reamer. And the way that this tool works, you can see it's like a little pin vise. It has a grip, a vise grip right here. And I've already taken the little tips out, but it's like a little spy tool. You can see as I rotate it and I open it up, this is where those little tips go into. They live right inside. So these little tips are great to pretty much dress your bead holes and enlarge your bead holes. I started using this tool way back when I used to make, I used to do some glass bead making just for fun, you know, like you do. And this was a tool that I was introduced to by a few of the glass bead makers. They use this to clean out their lampwork beads in the interior, on the inside, to clean out the bead release from the inside of the bead holes. But we can also use this to open up our beads. Hi, Mai. Nope, you're not too late at all. We're just ramping up to the demo. So welcome. So you can see these 3 tips, and I'm going to try and show these to you. Which side is the camera side is right over there. Okay. So let me see if I can get this really into focus here so you guys can really see it. Maybe I'll bring my hand up behind it. There we go. You guys can see this reamer has a diamond dust over the top here. And thanks you guys for the shares. You know, we really appreciate you sharing this video. Lauren, I just saw that you shared that. Thank you so much. Word of mouth means so much to us with these. This is a finer little reamer, and then this is like a little cone pointed reamer. So all 3 of these, thank you, Gita, as always, for linking that. We appreciate it. So I'm going to start by just doing what I do most of the time with these bead reamers is I use them with pearls. A lot of times with pearls, and let me pull this little thing here. A lot of times with pearls, the pearls are so small, the holes are so small, that if I want to use them on a heavier gauge wire, I have to enlarge the hole. Like this. Yes, replacement tips. That's right. These do come with replacement tips, and I'll tell you the one that I replace most often. See how there's my pearl, and I have this kind of hanging around my desk. This is a little handy dandy wire gauge that I made for myself. Let me show you what this is first. And what it is it's just a bunch of lengths, little lengths of wire that I've labeled with the different gauges, and so it hangs around my desk. So if I need to check a bead hole size, or if I need to check which wire I'm going to use for wire wrapping, and you can see I've just wire wrapped them all, and then I've strung them on a little piece of scrap leather that we had, and I slid one of these beads over the top just because I thought it looked cool. So, right? I know, Bonnie, it's really super helpful because I'm always scrambling around for different wire and trying to figure out, you know, like when I was making my my music cuff, I was trying to figure out what wire was going through my bugle beads there, and that 22 gauge wire was the one there. So yes, that's my handy dandy wire gauge. Yes. So like with this pearl, can we see the hole size there? Let's take a look. Let's see if the 20 gauge fits. Okay, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to poke that in, and can you see how that 20 gauge just doesn't quite work? Let me try the 22 gauge. Let me do that. Where's the hole? There we go. So the 22 gauge does fit in that pearl just fine. But let's say that I wanted a heavier gauge wire. I wanted to get that 22 gauge through that pearl hole. You know, a 22 gauge just wouldn't do it, and I wanted that 20 to work, right? See how it's just, it almost fits, but not quite right. So what I do is, that's where my bead reamer comes in. So the diamond tips of the bead reamer, you guys, they are coated with a diamond dust coating. These pieces must be used wet. Don't use them dry. What's going to happen if you use them dry is the diamond is going to just grind off. And if you don't have lubrication when you're drilling or reaming out this bead, the tip of the reamer can also get broken off. So I have just a little dish of water. That's all you need. And so I'm going to start by using this tip. And can you see how super skinny? I'll try and face it towards you guys. See, it's a pretty tapered little tip. So I'm going to open up the pin vise, or the grip on this tool. And I'm going to slide this guy in all the way in so it reaches the bottom, and then tighten it up. Okay, bam. And then can you see how if I'm pulling this out, it's nice and tight. So now let me see if I can reposition, because I want you guys to really see what I'm doing here. That looks pretty good, I think. Let me know if you guys are having trouble seeing. But I'm going to dip my bead right in there so it's wet, and I'm going to dip the tip of the reamer in. And I don't need to keep the bead submerged. I just need to keep everything kind of wet. So I'm going to keep my little dish over here. I'm going to put my reamer right in the tip of the pearl, and I'm just going to rotate it in, rotate it around, letting the reamer do the job. Dip it again, and I want to frequently dip because it's kind of hard to see all this white, but as I'm reaming, you can see a little bit of the interior of the pearl. Can you see that? Just right. Let me see if I can. There we go. It's kind of hard to see, but you can also see how it's on the tip of the reamer. So I'm going to rinse everything, and then I'll turn the hole to the other side. Can you see how my reamer is starting to stick out the other end of the pearl? I'll stick it through the other side and continue to ream. Now, I have a pretty good pinch on this pearl here, but I'm not pushing this reamer too much. I'm just letting the, the tool do its job. See how I'm getting a little more of that? It's how you can tell if you're making progress. You can see the reamer coming out through the other side of the pearl. Let's ream it just a little bit more. There we go. That's the other side there. I'm going to come in and ream this sucker out. Just rotating. Let me see if I can. This is just the action here. Rotating action. Could I drill a hole in a stick pearl with this? So, Jeanette, yes. This is what I do when I'm drilling something that doesn't have a pearl, doesn't have a hole in it. I can use these drill bits, but I use them in something that's motorized like my Dremel. So you could get the replacement drill bits like I have here, and I teach a whole class on drilling, different beads and objects. What you want to do is you want to get some kind of little grip, or you want to get some little tape to wrap your fingers. Grip that bead, and what I do is I put it on like a little wooden block, and I keep wetting the bead, and I just drill right down through it. You really want to be careful when you're drilling pearls, especially. You don't want any of this residue, the residue from the bead as it's getting drilled to go airborne and have and inhale it. It's not good to inhale any of that stuff. So the water and like a little wet surface here keeps that dust down. But I do use these in my Dremel tool, my handheld rotary Dremel tool, and it's pretty good. Can you see how now that is emerging out there? So let's see how we're doing with our 20 gauge. I'm going to grab my 20 gauge wire, and let's see what happens. if it's enlarged. Oh, it's super close. My wire is now going in. Is it going in on the other side? It is. So what I do sometimes, yeah, no, that's exactly right, Debbie. You don't want to inhale any of that pearl dust. So that's why keeping it wet is really helps with the safety. So see how far that wire is going into the pearl, and it's going pretty far into the other side. So I'm almost there. Pearls and semi-precious gems, the way that they have been drilled, or the way that they're usually drilled, is with a drill like this that's tapered. So this tapered drill, really makes the bead hole large from the outside and skinny on the inside. So you kind of have to drill through that skinny part. Oh, good. We're glad you're here, Christine. My mom entered my foot. I knew. Yes, my mom. Ma, I don't know, Ma, if you're watching today or not. I didn't see you jump on. But she'll probably watch this later if she's not on here. She's feeling a lot better. She is much more mobile. She did get a lot of beading time in, though. But my mom's a pretty active person, so I think that this little, it was kind of a bummer to have to sit around and heal that foot. But that's what happens. Only time will take care of a sprain for sure. There we go. Let's take a look and see what this is looking like. Oh, almost there. I can feel it. Let's try the other side. Now this is where I also can change tips, so I can go a little skinnier. I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to put this one in. There we go. And it's a little smaller, and it's a little, see how this reamer is more, the taper, it goes from real small to real big. This guy, the taper is a little bit finer, so it may be a little bit easier for me and faster to drill this out. There we go. I should have had one that was pre-drilled, like on a cooking show, but I didn't. But a little bit of rotating, letting the tool do its job, especially on drilling. If you force the tip of this piece, and this is the one, remember I told you which one I feel that I have to replace the most often. It's this reamer, this smaller one. It can get, if it's not lubricated, it can just get right in there, and it can get broken off. Oh, great. And Jeanette, you can go right onto my personal website. It's katerichberg.com. I have a listing of a lot of my online classes and stuff on there. So if you poke around there under my free class listing, I bet you'll find it, the drilling with power tools. So this is looking pretty good. Let's see if I've got that 20 gauge. That's the right one. Am I successful? Yes. Look at that. Success. 20 gauge right there. Perfect. And sometimes, when I use the Dremel with these, it can go a little bit faster, but sometimes I like the control I have just by doing it by hand. So a little bit of elbow grease and you'll be able to get these open. But look at that. Perfect. Oh, Gita, thank you. Thank you for posting that. No, not yet, but there is a listing. It's somewhere on there for my free video classes online. There are links and stuff on there that you can find. So that's it for the 20 gauge. Now, Lindy's question, let me move these guys into the spotlight. Lindy's question was about beads that cut thread. Now, especially with glass beads or handmade beads, a lot of times right around the hole can get a little rough. And that can be what we call a thread breaker or a thread cutter. Let me put the camera up a little bit so you guys can see. Can you guys see that okay? So the beads that I've got here, I've got some semi-precious beads. And you can see, it's kind of hard to see the hole in the sky, but the holes a lot of times in these semi-precious beads, usually they're pretty smooth, but sometimes there's a little bit of a, I'm going to put this down, maybe it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. You can see there, that's much better seeing the hole. Especially with glass beads or maybe like rough nugget beads and stuff like that, the hole is a little rough, and so it will cut your thread. One of the tips that I use for that is this little cone tip. Especially if you have like glass beads, like say from India or something like that, and they're rough around the holes. This is what I use for those guys. Let me move my little trays to the side. Slide this over. There we go. So I'll just get my little tip. I'll dip it. And see right there how that little tip goes in? And it just sands, files everything down for me. And it gives me, can you see if it's filed already? A little bit of that. I'm going to dip it again and file. It also rounds the edges of these beads just a little bit. Can you see? Maybe if I can catch the sunlight on the edge of that bead hole. There we go, and you can see right around there, it's just kind of shaving down that blunt edge, so it really works well. I'll do the same thing with this side. So I use this one a lot, this hole dresser, and this really helps if you are stringing things on thread or on elastic. Now, Lindy, what you were saying was you were having some issues with cutting with thread cutters, thread cutting beads, because you were using elastic and stuff like that. So depending on the type of beads that you're stringing, checking them and doing a little bit of dressing on the holes will really help some of those thread cutters do a lot better. Let's see. When would you opt for beading wire like soft flex with thread cutting beads, if ever? So that's a good question, Christine. Let me show you with this tough cord, actually. We love soft flex here at Bead Shop, and we are actually adding some soft flex to our product mix. You guys are going to see that in a couple weeks, so there'll be a lot more stuff coming along with soft flex coming up. As a matter of fact, let me show you, what earrings am I wearing today? These earrings that I'm wearing, you can see these have been strung on soft flex, and a lot of these have like crystal and beads that sometimes you would consider thread cutters. So I think it's a great solution for small semi-precious beads. But more on this later, but I just wanted to show you since I do have some soft flex on my person. But soft flex, the way that soft flex differs from this kind of thread, it's a nylon coated wire beading cable, and so that coating stands up a little bit more to the pressure of having beads rub against it. Oh, thanks, Gita. Yeah, these are old earrings from my jewelry vault. I thought Friday would be a good way to wear them. But one of the other things that I do, and Lindy, we also saw that you purchased some tough cord. What you were using before was silk, I think, is what Gita was saying, or what Drea was saying for laddering. See, now I'm confusing you guys, Gita and Drea. But the silk, since the silk is a natural fiber, it has a tendency to really shear or cut or be able to be to break pretty easily if it's not knotted. So, but with tough cord, what you're going to find is that your beads, it's a little bit stiffer, and it's also a little more tightly, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a little more tightly wound, a little more tightly spun, so it'll have less of a tendency to start to shred. It's really true. You guys are sisters from another mother, or whatever they say on that, for sure. So let me show you one of the other tricks that I do sometimes if I have a bead that I think is going to be a thread cutter, and I've reamed it out like this, but I just want to, maybe give it a little more protection. A lot of times what I do is, that's the pearl I just strung, I'll use like a seed bead, And this is a size 11 seed bead right here. This is a flexible eye needle that I'm using, and it's just going to go right down in. And if you can see here, the hole on the pearl is kind of protected by this seed bead, and the seed beads have nice rounded holes, really easy and simple to use. So sometimes if you're dealing with the thread cutter, putting in a little seed bead, I'll do that with this other one that I reamed out. This one has a hole that's a little bit bigger, so I could also use a size 8. But if you're using thread or you're using elastic, sometimes putting in that small little bead will also help prevent a bead from being a thread cutter. Okay, these are little Swarovski crystal little bicones. A bicone sometimes is a nice thing. See how when I put it up right up next to a seed bead, how the tip or that hole sits right inside that size 8? That also protects my thread from a lot of rubbing or movement to break that thread down. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I think this bead reamer, my friend, I use it a lot. So just to sum up what we've got here, what we used today, before I let you guys get on with your Friday, we've got our bead reamer with the diamond tips, and it's got 3 tips. 1, that hole dresser, 2, that larger tapered tip, and 3, the finer tapered tip. We want to make sure that we use them with water so that your hole is lubricated and it's not going to break the tip of the reamer off into the bead. Again, it's perfect to use for pearls like I've got right here. It's great to enlarge those pearls so they sit on larger wire gauges or even heavier cord if you wanted things to fit through your leather. My needle of choice, it is, Jeanette, it is actually we have the flexible eye and the collapsible eye. It's the flexible eye needle, this little guy, that I use the most for sure. And you can see how it flexes down right so I can get smaller beads on there. And I also did, to check my bead holes, I made my little handy dandy, I have my little handy dandy wire gauge that has wires all the way from 26 gauge all the way up to 18 gauge. So I can quickly check my hole sizes if I need that. So you guys, just before I go, I just wanted to mention, if you haven't gotten your newsletter yet today, you guys, or you haven't opened it, or if you haven't signed up for it, you want to make sure that you sign up for it because we've got some great weekend stuff coming up. Today, if you have not checked your newsletter, there's a couple of things. We have, see these great little triangle trays? We're actually doing a giveaway today, and if you make an order of $35 or more and you put in I want my triangle trays, we're going to add those to your order. It's a set of 12, and you can see they're super handy. And we also have a flash sale. All pearls are 15% off today only, and today is Friday, the last day of March 31st. So unfortunately, if you're watching this on a replay and it's past March 31st, those offers aren't any good any longer. But if you're watching me live or a little bit later today, jump in, open your newsletter, or just go ahead and make that order when it's $35 or more before shipping. We will include your triangle trays if you say I want my triangle trays. And again, the pearls are 15% off. Oh, great. So glad you could join us, Jeanette. Thanks. I'm going to turn the camera around so I can say goodbye. You can see the clock on the wall. It's about that time. It's well, we understand, Nancy. But if you want, I'll write you a note. Dear Nancy's husband. Nancy is getting a lot of self-gratification from making these beads. Anyways, you guys have a great weekend. Stay creative. You can see, let me move so you don't see the paper towels there. That's a lot prettier. Next week on Facebook Live, Janice and I have a great broadcast. We're going to be doing Bollywood, and I have been playing around with some variations on the Bollywood theme, so it's going to be super fun. So I'll see you guys with Janice on Wednesday at 10:30 Pacific time. Have a great weekend. Enjoy, be creative, all of that great stuff. I'll say hi to the team. Thank you so much for watching and sharing and supporting. We really super appreciate it. All right, you guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.